तपाईं हेर्दै हुनुहुन्छ हिमाली स्वरहरू अनलाइन रेडियोको युट्युब च्यानल।
On the street, they were massive, like hundreds of them going around. One lies down on the street and they draw the outline. I don't know what it is called for that, like, especially when someone dies and they do like for police investigation, that kind of line, and this person gets up, then another person dies. So whole area was like, whole street was marked in that line, and the background sound was that. And once I became really blackened, then I started working on those lines. And every household in the neighborhood, I already talked with them to keep some water, which is red water. And so the performance artists were going and asking for water, and what they were getting is more blood kind of thing. It's more dramatic seeing that. And some of the performance artists were really going through that really pain of go on that the street walking towards the government building, Singha Darbar, and in front of that Singha Darbar we put like big no entry sign, and we just stopped there. As then the dialogue between government and the other were just like there is no dialogue. It was not just possible to have any dialogue. So it's in that sense that where we stopped, and then but still there was hope. So whole of the crowd started lighting the candles, and performance stopped. That's how we did. But like the whole about like 100 plus artists were there, and crowd, as I say, it was about, I think 10-12,000 people actually witnessed that.
You want to respond to that comment? Yes. What do you think?
Actually, 3 points. One is that Nepal's birth in war. I think no war in the world history has been fought except for peace. Every war is started and fought in the name of restoring peace, building peace. And Nepal's history of that time is not very much at variance with societies at a similar stage of development in other parts of the world. So we don't have to be apologetic about what our ancestors did or did not do. It's a part of history, and we have to learn from it and cope with its legacies. The second question about do people have alternatives to the kind of capitalism that the United States is going through, or a large section of the Western world? Yeah, I think that's the most complex question of our time, because most of these ideologies were manufactured in some kind of a political context of post-Enlightenment Europe. So either we have multinational capitalism or we have state capitalism, two sides of the same coin, same difference. So are there actually, not even is there, are there alternatives? Are alternatives possible? Is it possible to have some kind of economy which is survival economics, which is friendly for the environment, less violent? Completely peaceful existence is a good thing to dream of, but there is going to be some kind of violence, but less violent. I don't think we have any alternatives, ready-made manuals. What I see, anticipate, and expect to work for is help in the evolution of some of those alternatives in years and decades to come. No ready-made answers. About art and tranquilizer and media as a storage, I think only two rejoinders. One is, there is no media today. It's a collection of advertisements, some directly paid for, others indirectly paid by the capital. So what you have in media now is actually a collection of advertisements. So when you have advertisements, naturally it has an intention, so it is some form of intoxicant. With art, some independence is there because it's not institutionalized, it has still some form of independence. The moment that independence is there, the tendency is more to create a feeling of endurance. And actually the line I quoted was not mine. A very famous Hindi poet, Veer Sahai, used it in his acceptance speech of Sahitya Academy Awards when he was conferred upon the highest literary award of India. He said that in Hindi, "Jahan bahut kala hogi, wahan parivartan nahi hoga." Where there will be too much art, there will be little change. And that was very true of Indian situation in the 60s and 70s, where art scene was very vibrant, with some of the best artists and literateurs and poets and novelists working in India, but so little happening in the political field, which drove many youths away from art and into direct political activism. Again, the same difference, art and media more or less becoming similar. So the use of this idea of press as freedom of the guardians of freedom of expression, that could perhaps be, because in the press good news is no news, and if good news is no news, then it cannot be a tranquilizer, then it has to be agent of agitation. So
when people were doing, I mean, still in Nepal as well, art, you always, as I was saying before, like, stay away from politics. Art is more beauty, balance, and in aesthetic level. And if if people says that, and what tranquilizer thing come, like that might be true. But in contemporary context, if we look at I don't buy that idea. I mean, art is always like, as we say, mirror of the society. So what is happening in the society or whatever happening around you, like you express that, and it has to have like contemporary context. And how art is behaving, it has to come through art, and artists are the ones who kind of really make people think. And when I say artists, it's just not visual artists. Whoever the creative thinkers, however they put or however they translate their minds. It could be any media, but the creative people make people think, and really it's kind of make it vibrant and it brings change. So I not buy that idea.
Yes, I think that's a point of view, because it's it could be chicken soup for the mind or a bottle of alcohol for the mind. Either way, I don't know.
Okay.
No clear-cut answers.
Okay, let's take one question here. Then you, sir.
This is for Mr. Lal. I'm fascinated by one thing, that Nepalese are more politically conscious than people in other underdeveloped countries. And I don't know what explains that. Because there's a tendency to think that, in a sense, in the foothills of the Himalayas, cut off from the action centers of the world, there's a tendency to think that they are apolitical. But that's not the case. But my question is this: you succinctly put the geographical situation of Nepal, sandwiched between a dragon and an elephant. To translate in political terms, sandwiched between Gandhism and Maoism. Gandhism is dead in India. Maoism is dead in China. If there is any Maoism alive, I see more Maoism in India than in China. Mm-hmm. That will be the case as long as Western educated intellectuals romanticize Maoism. So there is no escape from that. They are the people who provide it. that incentive. Now, Nepalese had a choice to choose, choice between the two. How is that they chose Maoism, which is dead in the land of its birth, as opposed to Gandhism?
I'm curious, the federal census starts in about a month. How is that being talked about within the country? In some ways, it's the most progressive census the world has ever seen, and I'm wondering how politically charged it is.
Good question. Yes.
Yeah, hi. For CK Law, I'm wondering if you could talk, I mean, this is sort of a big question, but about the Army and the formation of this other army, the Sasastra Bahai, and its relationship to the political tensions going on in Nepal. And for Ashmina, I'm wondering if I'm struck with the agreement of everybody to allow this performance to go on. And I'm wondering if you think that had something to do with the fact that people felt that art was not political. Because so much of what it seems you were doing was also, responding to all of the processions and to the political conflict. Why did they allow you to do this?
Either as a critique or a propagation of national imagining? And secondly, given sort of the hegemonic status of the Bombay film industry, does that have any impact on Nepali national imagining, arts and culture?
I'm not really sure whether they thought it's political or not. I mean, it's very hard to say. But one thing is, people knew my work before, how I was doing it and how it has it had impacted in different levels. Maybe one thing is that, but the way people after the event or after the performance, how people were reacting was in different levels, and how general people were kind of started reacting. This is very kind of really, it touched us, or it became really kind of sacred. It just got into our blood kind of thing, the way they felt it, and that is one of the things very important. And the two sides, especially Maoist, I think, from some of the Maoist group, they were taking it as it was against the government, so they were trying to pull me into their side, and whereas government side was saying, she did this performance because it is against the Maoists. So that kind of polarization became, it's kind of, and I have nothing to do with this board. I mean, of course, my individual thoughts, and it's for peace, and it's all this, of course it is political, but not into that one side or the other. But people were trying to take it in different kind of side. That was very interesting. And when I went and talked with several groups, like political party, I had to talk with individual political leaders from all the political parties, and so with the student leaders and other CDOs to whole of the different groups. And I don't know, I just went and said this is what I'm going to do. I didn't give them the whole picture what I was going to do, but somehow they knew my previous work. On that day, they felt really relaxed and really felt really good, and also the whole household around that neighborhood really felt really peaceful day. Within that period, for God knows how long, the whole of the neighborhood and whole Nepal became really tense, and that day became really peaceful. So people were saying like, if people have to do some riots or so, instead of doing really coming and bashing each other, it would have been more creatively done. That was what, like, how they were promoting. So it's very hard to say like how they took it, but they took it like for the peace, I guess, more than.
The choice between Gandhianism and Maoism is a difficult one. One explanation that I could hazard is that if a hero is close, you know that his feet are of clay. But if hero is afar, you live in the illusion that he wears golden boots. So we knew the failures of Gandhism in India too closely to be associated with it, whereas the glorious revolution of Mao looked too glorious from afar beyond the Himalayas. One explanation could be that, and second could be that one section of population which has a very high stake in peace is a commercial class, the trading class, the banyas as it is sometimes dismissively called. Their presence in Nepal has been insignificant. It's a country of peasants, soldiers and priests, and all of them have a vested interest in wars. So this war culture is deeply rooted in Nepali society. Third, that I can perhaps guess at is this very technical education as opposed to liberal arts education that we inherited. This technical education, I have been trained as an engineer, I know, and we are taught to believe that if there is a problem, there is a solution. So Bauram Bhattarai, Bauram Bhattarai, architecture and urban planning, Pushpamal Lahal, agriculture sciences, and these people, they have been taught that if there is a problem, there is a solution. No matter what the cost, you should look for solution. But all problems in this world don't have clear-cut solutions. That realization, I think, has been late coming. About this federal census, I am glad that you mentioned it, because I remember the moment it was mentioned that Indian census would have this category as caste, there is such a hue and cry in India that it is not yet resolved, But we adopted this category without a fuss 20 years ago. Nobody even mentioned, you're going to put it, and we put it. Noting this tendency, late Harka Guru, he was a planner and scholar of Nepal, he used to say that Nepal had been a political laboratory for rich Western universities for a long time. Here is a, almost watertight society where you can experiment some of your most weird ideas with no cost to your society or your students. So Nepali census has been experimenting, and as you again rightly pointed out, it's a very progressive format now, and very surprisingly, it's not even an issue of conversation in Nepal. The government machinery is quietly going about it with no position whatsoever, as if this is not going to change anything. We know that the next phase of politics will be based upon it. The percentage of Muslim population, for example, or the percentage of Tharus who don't want to consider themselves as Madhesis, or rest of the Madhesis, or the percentage of Pahari origin people in Madhes, or the declining population in some of the hill districts, the delineation of constituencies. Those are the political issues that will be a result of what this census comes up with. But we are not discussing causes. We will be agitated by its results few years after. Cultural industry upon imagination of Nepali nationality. Were you trying to look at that?
Well, I wouldn't suggest it, but yes, I was asking, is there even an effect
Yes, I think there is some effect. Effect in the sense it's very much discussed in conversation in Nepal. Look at Indians, how patriotic they are. Look at their movies, and we have no sense of patriotism. So, it's used as an ideal, and the Bollywood industry has become an ideal, which I think is a very dangerous thing to aspire. That's
The last resort of a scoundrel, patriotism.
हिमाली स्वरहरूका रेडियो कार्यक्रमहरू सुन्नुहोस् www.nepaliradio.com अथवा www.nepaliradio.org मा। हिमाली स्वरहरू नेपाली मन र नेपालीपनसँग नजिक।